Hello everyone, X-Walk Hill Bethelite here, and let's all get our money. Let's all reclaim the losses that we've taken as a result of the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. What am I talking about? I'm talking about lawsuits. The question is not, have we all suffered losses, financial losses, as a result of Watchtower? Because the answer to that is yes. There's people that haven't gone to college because of Watchtower. There's people that haven't accepted certain jobs. There's people that have worked part-time instead of full-time. There's people who are currently today in their 50s, in their 60s, in their 70s, having to go back to school, not having financial stability, not having the money they need to live on comfortably. So the question isn't, have you suffered financial losses as a result of Watchtower? Have you suffered mental and in some cases physical anguish as a result of Watchtower? The question to that is yes, or the answer to that is yes. The question is, can we sue Watchtower for it? Listen to this. Listen to this. One of the main reasons I think a lot of people aren't comfortable with the idea that they could be successful in a lawsuit against Watchtower is, how do you sue someone if people are doing things voluntarily? Most religions, for the most part, what people do, they do voluntarily. In the Baptist church and the Catholic church, if you got somebody becoming a nun or becoming a priest, most likely it was because that's what they wanted to do. They can't go back and sue the Catholic Church for that. If somebody becomes a pastor, they can't go back and sue the Baptist Church for that. They chose to do those things. The difference with our situation, as the reason why I think we have a reason to pursue this legally, is we had a gun pointed to our heads. We were told, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. That is a death threat. A lot of us, the reason why we spent so much of our time and effort banging on doors, we didn't go to college. We focused all our time and efforts on doing what Watchtower wanted us to do, was because we had a gun pointed at our heads. We were told, you do this or you will die. Not figuratively, literally. Watchtower has literally been giving out death threats. And God, think about the concept of God, or the way that they say that this is going to happen. God is a very real thing to a lot of people. There's billions of Christians. That's just Christians. There's probably around about the same amount of Muslims. There's a lot of people that believe in God. God is a very real thing to possibly, as far as the Western world, the majority of people. So if someone verbally states you will do this and that, or I will come over your house with a gun and shoot you. You can sue that person. You didn't see the gun. You can sue that person for threatening you. You could take legal action. Now, that gun is a very real thing. We all know what a gun is. It affects you mentally. There's psychological damage that goes in along with that as well, with a death threat. You're thinking you're about to die. Well, if you can sue someone for stating, I'm going to come over your house and shoot you if you don't do X, Y, Z. God is just as real as that gun to the majority of the people in the Western world. Using God as a weapon, stating if you do not knock on these doors, you are blood guilty, you will die. And you will die soon. Watchtower is very different from most churches. Most churches, people feel like, well, if I live a good life, I'll go to heaven. If I choose to live a bad life, I may suffer the penalty for that. And if I want to do good, if I choose to do good, I can do this for the community, I can do that for the church. But for the most part, the threat that a lot of churches give is somewhat after you die. After you die, natural causes. You know, you may suffer for the evil things that you do. You couldn't sue a church for that. They didn't say they were going to directly, they're going to kill you. Watchtower is very different. Watchtower flat out is saying, do what we tell you or you are going to physically die, and you will physically die soon. What we're saying is going to happen is right around the corner if you don't do what we tell you. How can you not have a legal case for a lawsuit if someone threatens your life if you don't do something? That's what I want to know. That's what I want you guys to explain to me. A lot of us have been told this as little kids. We didn't have a choice as little kids. You will do this or you will die, and you will die soon, and you will die horribly. Birds pecking at your eye sockets, all kinds of things like that. If a person is coerced to do something at the threat of death, that's not voluntary. If we all decided that we were going to sue Watchtower because of the damages that we've suffered, we can prove in their literature that we were taught things that damage people financially, serious damages. And we didn't do all this voluntarily. We were told if we don't do this, we're going to die. They can't say, well, you can't really threaten somebody with God. Yes, you can. That is a very, very real thing for a lot of people. The judicial system cannot flat out and say God is not real, therefore you can't threaten someone with that. They can't. They can't say God's not real. They can't. The Bible is used as a real document where the people in it that are killed by God, it's viewed as a historical document. It's viewed as real. It's very powerful. So if you pioneered, and you pioneered for years, I'm talking 30, 40 years, and you've only worked part-time jobs, and you didn't go to college because you were told after high school you needed to pioneer. Well, you have suffered untold financial losses. If they were just to pay you back for the gas money you spent, you would be getting a lot of money. The time that you wasted, the energy, not being able to get that time back, well, that's why people have lawsuits oftentimes. Because you were told at threat of death, these people are all going to die if you don't do this. So if you don't go knocking on doors, you're going to die. But if you don't pioneer and spend extra time going door to door, all these people may not get the message, and all these people are going to die. It's the same thing. If I threaten, hey, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to kill everybody on your block. It's still a death threat. You could still sue me for that. That's still psychological damage for someone to think, if I don't do what this guy tells me, he's going to murder everybody on my block. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If Watchtower says, if you don't do this, pioneer, auxiliary pioneer, all these people, and it's not just around your block, around the world, are going to die if you don't do what we tell you to do. That's not voluntary. We can prove with their own literature that people are coerced to doing things. That people are threatened, and that's the motivation for them doing things. And if you haven't talked to your loved ones in years, some people hadn't talked to their kids in years, some people haven't talked to their parents in years, some people, the majority of their family may be in that cult, and they may not have spoken to any of them. You have to understand, this is not voluntary. This is something that people should be able to sue for, because not being obedient, once that organization says don't talk to this person, it's not voluntary that you don't talk to them. It's you be obedient, or God will kill you. We're not just saying we don't think you should talk to this person. We're saying the same God that's about to kill everybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness, and this is about to happen, this is about to happen soon, does not want you to speak to that person. And if you disobey what we say this God wants you to, to do or not do, You're subject to die. You're subject to death. True or not? True or not, if you're not, Watchtower states, if you're not obedient to them, you're subject to death. Not by natural means. Murder. Murder. How can you not be able to sue someone and they're threatening millions of people with murder if they don't do what they are told to do? That's very different from a lot of churches. That's very different from most churches I know of. Most churches I know of, it's you do what the Bible says, or, you know, you'll live your life and everything, but after you die, you may suffer, you know. Well, after you're dead, there's no legal recourse for anything. So no, you can't sue them for that. But other churches haven't gone as far as what Watchtower has. Watchtower has overstepped that boundary. There should be a boundary, a religious boundary of what people are allowed to do. People should be able to, hey, if you do this, you're going to go to heaven. If you do that, you could go to hell. And now all this is after you're dead. We're not threatening your life, but Watchtower has ratcheted up here. You do what we say, or likely tomorrow or the next week. You don't know when it's coming, but it's coming soon. You're going to die. Murder. You're going to be murdered. That's beyond what a religion should be allowed to do. No religion should be able to flat out tell its members, do what we say, or you're going to be murdered. And this could happen tomorrow. I mean, matter of fact, Watchtower doesn't really even say it could happen tomorrow. In 75, they flat out said it's going to happen on this date. And what happened? People sold their properties, sold all kinds of things. Watchtower benefited financially, and those people suffered great loss. People have donated money to Watchtower because they're told, if you do not support what we're doing, this, what they say, quote unquote, kingdom preaching work, people give money. Why? If you don't support, that's what Watchtower says, if you don't support this work, you're going to die because of what they call blood guilt, and all these other people are going to die. Death threat. Virtually everything we did because we essentially had a gun aimed at our heads, or the threat of death. Gun aimed at our heads is figurative. The threat is the exact same as any other weapon. Death, murder. That's primarily the reason why we did a lot of what we did. You can't say, oh, I did all this just because I wanted to, when the doctrine states if you don't, you're going to die. You can't state that you did it because you wanted to. If somebody puts a gun to your head and says, give me $20, you reach in your pocket, you give them $20. Otherwise, you got this gun here and they're going to kill you. Well, you reach in your pockets, you pull out the $20. You can't say, here, I gave that to you because I wanted to. No. The gun took away your agency. You're now under threat. You're now being coerced. You could say, oh, I gave him that $20 because I wanted to, but it wouldn't be accurate. If he didn't have the gun aimed at your head and then you gave him $20, yes, then you gave it to him because you wanted to. If Watchtower is threatening people with death and they're doing what they're asked to do, it's because of the threat of death. They can't say, oh, we're just all doing this because we want to. Well, then they wouldn't have needed to threaten your life then. There's no purpose in threatening someone's life if they will do what you ask them to do just out of the kindness of their own hearts. So Watchtower threatens people with shunning. That's another very strong reason as to the reason why people do what they do for Watchtower. If I don't raise my hand and comment, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you go 2 meetings and you didn't raise your hand and comment in 2 weeks? People are going to start looking at you. People are going to start talking. They're going to start shunning. Why do people start that? It's going to go back to the death threat. There's people that have lost their lives because they didn't get medical treatment like blood transfusions and things like that. Well, there's people that they've lost their lives. Why didn't they get the transfusion? It goes back to the death threat. It's not one of those, well, you do whatever you want, and then after you die naturally, God may or may not be happy with you. No. The end is around the corner. If you don't do what we tell you, you will be murdered. You will be killed by God. God is this very, very real thing, whether you believe it or not. For the people that do, that's a very real thing. Just as real as a gun. So they're going to react the same way a person would react with a gun aimed at their head. Person sees gun to them real, threat of death real. People that believe in God, Watchtower's threatening that, you're going to die. You're going to be murdered if you don't do what we tell you. To that person, they're seeing this threat, God real, to them threat real. I'm literally going to be murdered if I don't do this. And as kids, come on now, as kids, I can tell you from personal experience, this threat works with adults. As a kid, anytime there was a thunderstorm, I'd be ready to hop out of my bed and run to my parents' room because I thought we're all going to die. I didn't make it up. At the Kingdom Hall, they reinforced this threat of death over and over and over. If you don't do what we tell you, you're going to die. Thus, as a kid growing up, every time there was a thunderstorm, I see lightning. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's starting. It's happening. All these people are about to start dying. As a kid, I didn't make it up. The reason I felt that way was because of death threats. There's no way that's legal. If I threaten you with a knife, you can sue me. If I threaten you with a gun, you can sue me. If I threaten you with my fist, you can sue me. All those things, very real, whether or not you see them physically or not. In your head, that's a very real threat. The legal system would agree. If I threaten your life with God, in your head, that is a real threat, and you respond accordingly, there's no legal, what legal recourse is there against it? You don't just have the choice to just not believe in guns when somebody threatens you with that, or knives. These people don't have the choice to just not believe in God when they're threatened with God. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. I think if we all sued Watchtower because of just the damages, we can prove it. It happened. Watchtower would be done. They couldn't pay us all back. Comment down below. 937-789-4029. X Wallkill Bethelite signing out.